All right, earlier today, the Attorney General Pam Bondi released phase one of the Epstein files. That's transparency. There are a lot of names in there, and Epstein was obviously a star chaser who wanted to hang out with people that are famous, people with money. So let me be very clear at the start here, and I said this on my radio show today. People, because they're in the Rolodex, they're on the list, does not mean they did anything wrong. On this show, and we have done it over and over again, we don't rush to judgment. We believe in the presumption of innocence. And I am appealing to people not to rush to judgment. Even though these names are now public information, there are names that I'm certain were not involved or knowledgeable of this. I could be certain of it. But the biggest story tonight is which documents are missing. This is the untold story. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, sent the new FBI Director, Kash Patel, a fiery letter accusing the FBI, to be clear, not Kash at all, of withholding more documents, saying in part, quote, late yesterday, I learned from a source that the FBI field office in New York was in possession of thousands of pages of documents related to the investigation and indictment of Epstein. And while also writing to Kash, quote, when you and I spoke yesterday, you were just as surprised as I was to learn this new information. Now, before adding that by 8 a.m. tomorrow, the FBI will deliver the complete Epstein files to her office. Now, I noticed a lot of people online rushing to judgment, asking, why didn't they release it all? There's a reason. Well, they didn't know about these other documents that were withheld until about 24 hours ago. And anyone telling you anything different, I know my sources, I've triple checked. Those people would be wrong. Here with the reaction, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, civil rights criminal defense attorney David Schoen, who once represented Epstein. David, for that reason, I will start with you. I want to be clear. If people whose name might be in the guy's Rolodex, 254 alleged victims here that they've identified. But if your name is in this, I don't want people to say, there you go. He knew a lot of people. He was a star chaser, a money chaser, meaning people with money like to hang out with him, correct?
Correct. He also, people who had money and celebrities loved to hang out with him. Frankly, they found him charming. They sought his company. They did business with him and so on. But let's separate the issues. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, is looking for transparency for the American people. I'm a fan of hers. She's a star. She's right about seeking transparency. There's no question about that. The question, as you raised it, is correct also. What's done with those records is important. On your show, since the day I've known you, and I'm sure well before that, you have emphasized the importance of the presumption of innocence in every single case. That holds true here. These are salacious facts that will come out. People's names are involved. Many of those people, or maybe all of those people, did nothing wrong with Jeffrey Epstein. And there's a lot more to say about this.
Yeah, and there's also a Rolodex. If your name's in there, Greg, I'm sure you agree with all of us. But that's not the story to me. The story is the New York field office, they knew that the Attorney General of our country was asking for these documents. They didn't hand them over. I've got a big problem with that.
Well, it could be criminal. You know, the Attorney General was sandbagged deliberately by our own employees at the FBI's New York field office, withholding thousands, as you point out, of documents, defying her order to hand everything over and then lying about it. You know, nobody should be surprised at the deceit and the sheer arrogance of the FBI, because the higher ranks are polluted with officials who think they're answerable to nobody. They can do as they please, and they do. It's become a cesspool of corruption. Started with Bob Mueller, accelerated under James Comey, and Chris Wray did nothing to resolve it. He covered it up. So, you know, Kash Patel has his work to cut out to purge the FBI, and I expect he will quickly identify and likely fire whomever committed this gross insubordination. And by the way, those people better be on the phone tonight to good criminal defense attorneys, because willfully concealing documents from the Attorney General, misrepresenting the truth, looks very much like obstruction of a federal agency. That's a crime. And if two or more people are involved, that's conspiracy to obstruct justice. So lawyer up, boys and girls.
Wow. What light can you shed on Jeffrey Epstein without violating attorney-client privilege? David Schoen.
It's a very interesting question. One of the most interesting people I ever met. He called me about 10 years before he died just to ask a question about he was getting ready to go to jail, wanted some information. Remember, he was represented by a team of terrific lawyers, many of them, some of the biggest names in the country, for years. About a year before he died, he asked me to review their work. He was facing an action in Florida, and he was concerned. He asked me to review their papers. After he was arrested, he asked me to come to New York, and he hired me to, 9 days before he died, he hired me to take over his criminal case. He told me that I was the only person in the world he trusted with his life, so I took that very seriously as a badge of honor. He was a very interesting person.
Yeah.
Never got his day in court.
All right. Well, we also need to understand, hanging on a bed that is very low to the ground. It seems there are a lot of questions there. Why was the camera not working? Where were the prison guards? We need a lot of answers here. Thank you both.